Okay, so the first thing that we are going to do right now is soapstone this passage. So I'm going to start off with the speaker, and the speaker in this is obviously Mike O'Donnell in his younger form. Then next, the occasion of this passage is going to be the divorce court case that he is trying to get lifted and pushed back. Next, we're going to move on to the audience. The audience is obviously the people in the courtroom, so this is going to be the lawyers and the judges, the jury, but most importantly, there will be Scarlett in the audience. And Scarlett is Mike O'Donnell's wife, and she's the most important one because that's who Mike O'Donnell is directly talking to, and that's the one that he is trying to persuade and the one he's tied up in this argument with. Okay, now for a purpose, I'm going to write down that his purpose was to signify his love and this new determination that he found for Scarlett, and to apologize for his wrongs and right his wrongs, as he's trying to mend everything, to move on and get past this argument, to make amends for her, to forgive him, take him back, and to call off the divorce court cases. Then moving on to subject, I'm going to put down redemption through love, as it's his apologizing and him showing how much he loves Scarlett in order for her to take back the court case. It's kind of just morally saying, if you have love, then what else are you going to need? Sorry, that sounded so soft and mushy, but okay, continuing on. The way he talks is he's talking about the past and commemorating the past that he had with her. But he's also in such a vulnerable state, saying that he loves her. So for tone, I believe that I'm going to put reminiscently vulnerable. Okay, so there it is. And now let's move on to the fun stuff. Quickly, I'm just going to go through and I'm going to underline some parts of this passage that exemplify some credibility through me. So this would be his ethos appeal. He opens up saying, I can explain this if you just listen. I got a letter. I got a letter from Mike O'Donnell. He's the husband in this case. This is important because he's using the personal pronoun I, but he's also talking about Mike O'Donnell. And Mike O'Donnell is so relevant because he is the husband in this court case. So he is one of the most important factors of this case. So when he says I, it correlates to the idea that he is Mike O'Donnell, which makes him a very credible source. Then he goes on to say, because I had you, and if I love you. These are so important because these are not just terms that anyone would say. This shows that he has a past with Scarlett, that he might know her better than anyone else does. So it is another reason why he is so important and why the people in the courtroom need to hear him out. I went along and I underlined all of the logos appeals in blue to exemplify them for you. The first one, I gave a date and I said it was the first time I saw you. This is mainly just because it was inevitable that it happened, and that this is also the day that he immediately started to like Scarlett. Then later down we see, you whispered that you loved me, and I blame you for my failures. These are also two inevitable things that happened. One of them caused the marriage, and then one of them actually destroyed the marriage. It was kind of smart to use both of these events because you see where they used to be and where they are now in their love story. But he's saying this in an unbiased manner. He's not blaming himself. He's not blaming her anymore. It's kind of just like the apologizing. And it's kind of cool because since she knows that these events are inevitable and did happen for sure, this is when she starts to believe him and hear him out and agree with him, which is a contributing factor to why he was able to win this argument. Okay, and lastly, I'm just going to go and underline all of the pathos appeals in green. Okay, so first he starts off by buttering her up and saying, I've never seen anything so perfect, and that he felt so peaceful and safe with her. This is him buttering her up. So when he's starting his argument, he doesn't want her to be on a mad note. He wants her to feel better, so she's not mad and already making assumptions in her head that she's not going to trust him and believe anything she says. So that was smart on Mike O'Donnell. And then he says, and then I grew up and I lost my way. And this quote is just, that is so sad. It's kind of correlating with he's not directly saying he's sorry, but he's blaming himself for the whole thing that he did. It's when he says he lost his way, it's basically just saying he wants to get back on a path to what makes him happy, and that's obviously her. The whole scene is really sad, and the last line, that's the one that cuts deepest to the heart when he says, if I love you, I should let you move on. This is where our tone comes out, because when he says he loves her, that is such a vulnerable thing, and by saying that, he's putting himself in a vulnerable spot, and she knows this. It's a fearless thing to say. It's something pure and honest, and that sums up basically this entire scene, and that's the eye-opener for Scarlett to trust him and to believe him and to side with him. And now in the yellow, I indicated some place where you might find imagery. He says, it was the first time he saw her. You were reading less than zero. You were wearing a Guns N' Roses t-shirt. I'd never seen anything so perfect. What I like about this is that he's using imagery, but it is not so descriptive to the point where everyone in the courtroom knows what's happening. It's descriptive to the point where only the two of them really know what's happening, and that makes this whole thing go back to the tone of vulnerability, that personal side of the story. This transitions into the hyperbole. I remember thinking that I had to have you or die, and this hyperbole relates Scarlett to being this vitality in Mike's life, that he needs her, and this whole thing is a plea to get her back because he's not going to go anywhere without her. I'm going to go back up top to the beginning a little bit, and if you see how he's stuttering and how he's kind of yelling in this scene, you're going to see that he's talking in such a frantic tone, and that shows how crucial this whole idea is to him, and that can also correlate back to the idea of ethos as it being an important part in his life where he has to share it. He is vital to this case. Okay, lastly, Mike O'Donnell closes this whole thing off with an anaphora of the personal pronoun I, because I had you, and then I grew up and I lost my way, and I blamed you for my failures, and I know that you think you have to do this, but I don't want you to. But I guess if I love you, I should let you move on. This is bringing it to the personal level even more. It's all about him and his relationship with Scarlett. He knows he was wrong. He knows what he did. He knows what he must do. And he knows so well what he is doing right now because it shows his connection and that he is so dedicated to find Scarlett's love once again. And that's the whole point that he is trying to get across. Then thank you so much for sitting and listening to my presentation as I rambled on about vulnerability and love.